It is Monday, March 18th, and this is the MMA Hour right here on MMAFighting.com. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I greatly appreciate it. My name is Luke Thomas. I am the host of this program. Okay, whoops. Lost my screen there for a second. Let's see. Now I got to do Face ID so this thing comes on. I'll get to that in a second. All right. Who's on the show today? Well, we were supposed to have Jorge Masvidal. I have no idea what happened there, so that's fun. But we are going to have UFC flyweight champion Valentina Shevchenko. She will be on a little bit later in the show at around 12:40. Rising UFC light heavyweight Dominick Reyes will be here, and that should be a lot of fun. Plus, you'll be my guest on the Sound Off when we take your calls using the number 844-866-2468. We'll do a round of your tweets. Keep sending them using the hashtag #TheMMAHour. We really appreciate that as well. And we're going to try out a new segment. It is the brainchild of one Danny Segura. It is called Is Normal. I have no idea how that's going to go, but we're going to find out. So far, the day has been absolutely terrible. Kids, always remember something that I learned in the movie, what was it, that one, with the fish man, the Guillermo del Toro movie. I forget. Anyway, there's a line in there called, life is the shipwreck of our dreams. That is the best advice I can give somebody. All right. So, hope you had a happy weekend. UFC London was on Saturday. UFC Nashville's upcoming. Lots of different things to get to. First and foremost, let's start the show how we normally start. It is time. Oh, and by the way, what I'm about to say is a YouTube exclusive. Time now for the Monday Morning Analyst. No graphics. There we go. Just one of them days, y'all, that a girl goes through. All right. Like I said, Monday Morning Analyst, always going to be a YouTube exclusive. Where's my thumbnail? Where's my snare? UFC London was over the weekend, and I don't know what's happening back there. Well, we are off to it. There we go. There we go. We're on the right track now. All right, UFC London over the weekend. A lot of different fights you could have talked about, but the one that I thought was the most interesting for a lot of different reasons, of course, let me turn it this way, was the main event. Jorge Masvidal defeating Darren Till in the main event. Now, what was significant about the win? Well, number one, snapped a 2-fight losing streak for Jorge Masvidal. That's big. That's now 2 fights in a row that Darren Till has lost. I think some of his stock has probably dropped, understandably, a little bit, although his future is still very much open for interpretation, and especially if he goes up to middleweight. I'll know the story there. No, what stood out to me was a couple of things. Now, Jorge Masvidal is one of these guys who came up on the sort of Kimbo Slice circuit, literally fighting in backyards in Miami, and he has elevated himself to this position. He has had, I think, 5 split decision losses. No, 5. He's had at least 4 split decision losses in his career. He is a guy who everybody you talk to that trains with can't say enough good things about him. I spoke to Anthony Rocco Martin last week, and he was like, dude, training with that guy is a nightmare. I mean, it's good for you, but it's a nightmare. And everybody else would be like, his ground game is so good. His stand-up is so good. His wrestling is so good. His cardio is so good. And then you look at his record, and it's definitely good, but you're like, that doesn't exactly match the rhetoric. I think there's been a couple of problems in his career. I don't know how much fighting at lightweight, as long as he did, benefited him. I think that's part of it. Again, there's been a couple times where he really needed to step on the gas in fights. And he didn't. There's been a couple times where I thought he could have got the nod and he didn't. There's just been a couple of things here and there that have held him back. I made a claim on Saturday after he knocked out Darren Till, and I really stand by it, which is Jorge Masvidal, in my judgment, is easily, in terms of the casual audience being aware of who's really good in MMA, it's easily Jorge Masvidal. Some folks are saying, what about Leon Edwards? Certainly Leon Edwards' ability doesn't quite match his visibility, but that's all relatively recent. We're talking about a guy who has been doing this for a long time, 34 years old, and he's been fighting since he was in his teens, right? And he's always had these moments of build-up and then didn't work, and then build-up and it didn't work. And again, some of that was his fault, a lot of it wasn't. And so you're talking about a guy who has been consistently not exactly underperforming, but underperforming relative to expectations or some kind of in between. He's been doing good work. It just wasn't really recognized. And I think that's my point. It's been ongoing for a really long time. So I thought that was a moment. I don't know if you want to call it a breakout moment. It's arguably his best win. It's certainly his biggest win in terms of the last few years. The Cerrone win was nice, but it's hard to know exactly what that means today. He did lose to Wonderboy Thompson pretty consistently and clearly. It's the same with Demian Maia as well. This was not merely a rebound win. This was him showing that for all the talk about three-piece and a soda, for all the talk about him fighting in backyards, for all the talk about Jorge Masvidal being the tough guy who doesn't take anything, and all those are true statements, the reality is, man, he is a really, really, really masterful technician. He doesn't get enough credit for it, as I mentioned, for all those reasons. But if you look at the tape and you just watch the reality of it, he's not beating guys like Darren Till in the way he is by accident. So today's lesson is not merely about how Jorge Masvidal won, nor am I trying to dissuade you about your opinions related to him, about him being these tough guys who don't take a lot of crap and that kind of stuff. I'm not challenging it. What I'm saying is he almost has this compartmentalized identity, where on the one hand, he is the street tough guy, and on the other hand, he is the really thoughtful, cerebral fighter. Most of the guys who start out fighting in backyards, they don't ever become anything because that's really all they're good at. This guy turned out to be really good at the sportsman's game and yet has maintained this posture of a guy who, he's always getting he's a tough dude from the Kaje, man, from the street. That's who he is. But he's both. All right, so let's go to the slide. Now, there's something in here which we're going to focus in on, the double shift. Shouts to commentator John Gooden. He noted that Jorge Masvidal had borrowed something from Tyron Woodley in terms of that double shift. We'll talk about that. He's right. I don't know if he borrowed it, but certainly they both do it. And in fact, though, I would argue that there's another person that they omitted from the conversation that really should be added, who I think has done the best double shifting in maybe all of MMA. Not the best stance switcher necessarily, but the best double shifter. We'll talk about that in a second. All right, so how did Jorge Masvidal win? Again, as a standard disclaimer I always make with this, I'm not presenting to you this as the only analysis or the best analysis or the complete analysis. I'm presenting this to you as mine. I encourage you to watch other analysts and see what they have to say and make a determination from there. However, these are my arguments, and I intend to justify them here through the course of this program. All right, number one, whether a first round and collect data. If you notice in this fight, Jorge Masvidal had much more trouble in the first round than he did in the second. There were a couple of reasons for that. One of which is you can see that when he was at opposite angles, so when Darren Till was standing in his traditional southpaw position and you had Jorge Masvidal in his traditional orthodox and they were standing opposite, he had a lot of trouble with that. Jorge Masvidal was always getting out-angled by the lead foot of Darren Till. That's when he got dropped. Remember, he got dropped with that straight left? A lot of times, Darren Till was able to push him back, corral him, and walk him into his left hand, and he landed it pretty effectively through the course of that fight, sometimes with the jab too, or a hook and a straight. That was a real big problem for him. He addressed some of those things in the second round, but the first round was just kind of whether this big welterweight getting right in your face, setting the angle, setting things up. He takes a second to get going. He's not one of these guys who comes out, and yeah, he came out with that jumping front kick, which landed in the groin or whatever, the oblique kick that went to the groin. But generally speaking, the way Jorge Masvidal wins is he has to make reads on you and set traps. I actually spoke to Paulie Malignaggi recently, and he actually made a good point about bare knuckle boxing, which is if you take a boxer, a real boxer, and you put him in the street, which is not, which I guess is bare knuckle, but not the promotion. His point was the boxer can actually be much more offensive. And the reason why he can be much more offensive is because in a boxing match against someone of relatively equal skill, man, if you're a high-level boxer, you have to set traps. Like, this takes time to unload on it. When there's a skill disparity and they just walk into traps, either you're setting or you don't even have to set because they're so unaccustomed to proper defensive posture and footwork, you can just unload the 4-pounder on them. So when Jorge Masvidal is fighting in these rings, in these cages, I think he understands that really well. He takes time to collect. Yes, he has some first-round stoppages. He should have stopped Cerrone in that first round. They let him out for the second. But generally speaking, he takes a little bit of time to make reads. And Darren Till is interesting because he's a come-forward guy, and he's trying to find his moments. But he's not going crazy with offense either. He's a little bit judicious with it, which makes getting the reads a little bit hard. Then he gets dropped. And then, by the way, his scramble back to his feet, you guys notice what he did? He reached for a leg, then pulled it on top of him, went for deep half, then used that to get an underhook, and then used that to stand. That was super clever. Super clever. Really like that from Jorge Masvidal. Rather than trying to chase the wrestling scramble, he went wrestling, jiu-jitsu, wrestling. It was cool. It was really cool. Anyway, make the reads. So the first round, this is why he's like, you notice why he loses in split decisions? Because he takes time to get going a lot of times, or he'll kind of check out in the third a little bit. He's better, I think, and I know he's lost some 5-round split decisions, but I would say that today's version of Jorge Masvidal is better in a 5-round contest when he can collect enough information and then make judgments about it. 2, neutralize the angle advantage. I talked about it before. Man, that was a real problem for him. That was a real problem. Darren Till, when he was setting up from a southpaw stance for the orthodox of Masvidal, he was constantly getting the superior angle, finding a hook, finding a straight, landing a jab. How did he combat this? In the second round, he would throw lots of kicks to the inside lead leg, to the body, to the teep, and oblique. He would do all of those. He would have much better side-to-side movement. He would go to the weak side a lot, right? So he would circle away from the power hand. He would blitz the pocket. He was just staying busier because as much of a guy he is in terms of taking the time to get going, Darren Till is also, as I mentioned before, a little bit one of those guys too, where he likes to escalate, but he takes a little bit of time to escalate his offensive volume. It's not something that's so necessarily automatic, especially when guys are changing the rhythm, changing the distance on their feet, moving their head side to side, getting off the center line on each different way and sort of figure eighting their way inside. He can often be forced. I think you saw him, for example, in the Tyron Woodley fight, Darren Till, he had 0 punches. Go back and watch what Tyron Woodley was doing, man. The whole time, he's level changing, he's feinting, he's getting side to side, he's circling, he's double shifting, heading in there. And Darren Till couldn't get going. He couldn't get going. He likes it when guys exchange with him. He doesn't like it when guys fake and feint a lot. It slows him down in the process. So as I mentioned, how did he neutralize it? Stance switching, he neutralized it. Kicks to the body, he neutralized it. Kicks to the legs, he neutralized it. The angular movement, he neutralized it. And then a third way he did was collapsing the pocket, which we'll talk about in a second. Counter-striking the warning track. You're going to see there are times when Darren Till pushes forward. He pushes forward to get them to the warning track, and then once they're all on the fence line, he pushes forward. He has these 2 phases. The warning track, by the way, is there's the concentric 2 black lines on the sides of the octagon, inside the octagon. It's that outer space, the danger zone I always talk about. Whenever he got pushed back, Jorge Masvidal, that's when he would find a home for the right hand. The same right hand that dropped Till when Woodley fought him. Not exactly the same punch or same setup, but the same idea. And you notice when he got dropped, it was in the same place. Till likes to push guys back there, and he does a lot of good work. But Till does a lot of lean defense. He doesn't move his head a lot, and he kind of goes back in straight lines sometimes too. And so for guys who want to double shift, or for guys who want to time a right hand as they close in, if you're the guy who leans, it's just a lot easier to get caught. It's a lot easier to get caught, and he was taking advantage of some of those deficiencies in that space. 4, as I mentioned, collapse the pocket. He did this over and over again. Sometimes to clinch. He would collapse the pocket and go for a single, but it was a really weak single attempt on purpose. And then he would clinch break and then throw some punches. You saw that. He was just finding ways to get inside. When you think about stance switching in MMA, why is stance switching different than it is in boxing? Right? Well, there's a lot of reasons. And there is stance switching in boxing. There's shifting, drop shifting, all kinds of stuff. But the reality is, a lot of times in boxing, I'm going to be here. Our forearms might be touching. Right? We're going to be right here. And I can switch to southpaw with just a single step because we're going to be fighting in real close, tight ranges. In MMA, you don't really see a lot of that. You don't see phone booth fighting. You don't see 2 guys who are in that space. You see them much further apart. This is where the double shift comes into effect. They have to collapse that pocket. They have to close that distance all the time because you want to be at really safe ranges. You'll notice when TJ Dillashaw fought Cody Garbrandt and he's doing this and he's shifting and all that kind of stuff. What did Cody do? He just circled way out all the time. He only got in trouble when he stayed in the pocket. You see it constantly. That's not something you see a lot of in boxing. Guys can slip, right, and then rotate to get away from a face shifter or, use good ring generalship. It's much harder in MMA because you're starting from so far out, right? Exploit weak side defensive openings. This was the other part I mentioned. Darren Till got dropped with Tyron Woodley's right hand, and I don't know that we have enough data to make a firm conclusion, but he got dropped with a left hand against Jorge Masvidal. When I say firm conclusion, I mean, does Darren Till generally have defensive liabilities on his right-hand side? I can't say for certain. I can say he did in this fight. In this fight, he did. Jorge Masvidal found a home by finishing combinations with his left, and it landed over and over and over and over again. Now, sometimes he went a little long, right? So he would hit him with his forearm. He didn't quite get the distance right. Sometimes it would barely just graze him, right? But the idea was, as I mentioned before, Darren Till does a lot of this. He's not doing a whole lot of, he's not doing a lot of that. He kind of just leans to get out of the way. And, one of the most important parts about footwork is, yes, setting up your offense. But we just mentioned about collapsing the pocket. One of the best ways to not get hit is to move your feet. Till is not one of those guys. And there are advantages and disadvantages to every style. Don't misunderstand me. And I'm certainly in no position to coach him. I'm just saying he saw that when he wants to defend himself, he'll bring his hands up, which is good. He'll lean, which can be good in the right circumstances. But against Jorge Masvidal, who might try a three-punch combination or at least throw a right and then a left behind it, he was finding a home with that left constantly. And in the end, you see him, he gets Till's hands to extend, and then he goes around the top of it. He just made reads. He just made good reads, right? Collect data, force reactions out of this guy, slow him, freeze him with all the fakes, all the feints, move. Make sure you're kicking him to the body, collapse in that pocket, see how he reacts, and then start making your judgment calls about what kind of things you want to throw. And then lastly, finish off with the double shift. What is the double shift? So a shift is when, Israel Adesanya, right? What does he do when he, or John Jones, what does he do? He stands in southpaw. He'll throw a body kick. I'm not really raising my leg up high, but this is the desk right here. But he'll use that, and then he'll step into the new stance when he brings that leg down. That's not really shifting, right? Or Israel Adesanya will do the same thing. He'll bring his leg up real high, like he's going to go for a teep, and then he'll switch in the end. That's not shifting. Shifting is when they literally just, again, you don't want to leave your feet too high, and there's lots of different ways and angles you can do to set it up. You can do it to take a major angle. You can do it to make a lateral push, a linear push. There's lots of different ways, but it's really just a switch of the feet. So you're switching stances, and you're almost jumping in the air, but just a little bit, just enough to switch the feet. A double shift is when you do it back to back. It's how you go from essentially southpaw to halfway orthodox, back to southpaw like that. It's a double shift. You're making two switches. Southpaw, orthodox, orthodox, southpaw. Bop, bop, bop. Or orthodox, southpaw, southpaw, orthodox, whatever. It's a double shift, right? You saw Darren Till get attacked with one of these by Tyron Woodley. He does it all the time. He flirted with it. You could see in the first round, he stayed mostly in orthodox position. He didn't do a whole lot of switching. He started to experiment with it as the round went on a little bit. He would switch his hips to see what kind of reaction he would get. He would switch and then go back. He might switch once and then throw a shot. And he began to be like, oh, okay. He was making some reads. It was really in the second round, and he ends it with the double shift. I think the speed of the pocket collapse caught him, and the nature of the punch, which I'll show in a minute, also kind of surprised him. But the double shift. And we're going to look at the one Tyron Woodley did, which is, it wasn't very successful. Obviously, he won that fight. But, I mean, that particular double shift. And then there's somebody else who I think is the best double shifter in MMA because of the ways in which he uses it and the ways in which he kind of disguises a double shift. There's all kinds of stuff that is amazing about him that they should have mentioned on the broadcast, although they did a great job. Don't misunderstand me. But when I think about, who the best double shifter is, Tyron Woodley's double shift is very good. Remember what it is. If you make a shift in a fight where you're switching your feet, man, you got to do that with aggression. You got to get in there and make it happen. Now, you got to time it right. You got to set it up. You can't just, berserk out of nowhere. It's a calculated move. My only point is there are some moves you can kind of be sneaky about it, and you can kind of ease your way into it. You can kind of just sort of lull everybody into a moment. Then there are attacks in MMA and boxing and everything else. Man, when you go for it, you got to bite down on the mouthpiece and really commit. The double shift is one of them. It looks like you're, I've got a little dog, Barbas, right? You ever put a little dog on a linoleum floor and they try to run and they run in place for a second, right? And then their paws grip the floor and then they're able to move. It kind of looks like that for a second because you're literally just shifting your feet from one side to the other, and then, in this case, moving forward in a linear fashion while shifting again. Man, you got to commit to that. You got to commit to that. If you do that half-hearted, you're going to get lit on fire. So that's why when you see it, it looks like they're running. That's why it looked like Tyron Woodley was running into Darren Till. And he literally, remember when he did this, he actually landed the right, and then it was the left hand that closed the show. Remember what happened? Till got hit and kind of fell forward a little bit and then ran into Jorge. Jorge got chest to chest with him because he zoomed into that space. Dude, you have to commit to that. And it's exactly what he did. And the proof was in the pudding, obviously, by the end there. All right, let's look at some of the numbers here very, very quickly, as we always like to. Here's Jorge Masvidal's record. The only one I wanted to pay attention to was the striking accuracy, 46%. I don't know if you guys can read that here. Let me do this. Whoop. God damn it. One day I'm going to learn how to use this iPad. Here we go. 46%. So about 50% of his shots that he fires land. All right, that's what we're looking for here. Okay. So here is his fight with Darren Till. What was his overall striking accuracy? As you can see, both of them had 48%. Okay, that sounds about right. That's pretty good. Is there anything else to take from that? Yes, there is. As I mentioned in the first round, here are their first round numbers. In the first round, Jorge Masvidal landed 19 of 39 after a full 5 minutes. Right? There you go. After just 3 minutes, he already had 16 of 33. If you do the math, you can tell he was on pace to up his output significantly, even with the percentage of shots landing, holding. He was escalating. He collected some data, had to get himself out of a little bit of trouble in that first round, but he was making the reads over time. And as you can see, he was well on his way to producing something of value. If you take a look at that striking percentage against Jake Ellenberger, you can see here, right? Jorge Masvidal, let me do this. You can see here, 44 of 63 with nearly 70%. 70% in terms of significant strike accuracy. Contrast that with, this is the Stephen Wonderboy Thompson fight. Contrast that with this, 29%. So if he can if one of the ways to disrupt him is you got to make him miss a lot, which is perfect for Wonderboy. In retrospect, you can see why Wonderboy has one of those styles that's going to be real trouble for him. If you've got really good defense and he can't quite make he has to make contact. He has to hit and then kind of miss. He's like, okay, let me figure that out. Or hit and then overshoot and then figure it out. Folks have often asked me what I did in the Marine Corps. I did artillery. I was a forward observer. What is that? I was the guy who would watch the bombs land from a howitzer, which is a cannon. Someone pulls the lanyard, it shoots, red bag 7, 20 or so miles. I'm the Bubba 20 miles up in the front. I've got binoculars. I'm calling in fire missions on enemy in the open, tanks, whatever I need to kill, whatever Uncle Sam's misguided children have deemed no longer worthy of living. And so then I call in that mission, right? Why is that relevant to this? Because the way in which artillery works, people like, oh, you got a direct hit with missiles. You don't really need a direct hit. What you need is something that the Russians invented. The Russians are really the masters of artillery strategy. It's called bracketing. You will actually overshoot one of your initial shots, one of your initial bombs, ahead of the bomb, and then you use the math to recalibrate it on the undershot, and then it's usually your third one that's going to be your best shot. Jorge Masvidal is kind of like that. He might not be intentionally bracketing, but he's bracketing. He's kind of overshooting a little bit, undershooting a little bit, and then like Goldilocks, he finds the porridge that's just right. So there's a concept for you in artillery, bracketing, all right? By the way, if you ever see anyone in the movies on a hook on a Singar saying repeat over, know that they had no military consultation on set, because you would never do that. Repeat means to just keep dropping bombs. That's what it means. All right. All right. Let's look at some of this. These are going to go chronologically. So you're going to see him slowly at first do very little, and then it's going to open up, yeah? Here we are at first, 308. This is the same situation. From here, boy, Darren Till was pretty good, I got to be honest. He had some trouble early. Coming out, again, setting that angle. You can see this was, I think, his most comfortable stance, but in terms of how he generally likes to land offense, but it was some problems for him. And by the way, he did a lot of touching to measure and then to disrupt the timing. There's a lot of hand fighting here that I don't really get to. That's a lot. That's really important, but okay. All right, so you can see him watch just the hips watch him here. He's going to jump, switch for a second, see what he does, and then just goes back and then circles back in. Notice that when he switched, he kind of went out a little bit just to see what reaction it caused, but to keep himself safe. And then when you think about how far apart they are, that's where that double shift comes into play, because even just one shift usually isn't enough. Not usually, often is not enough. Not much there, just that, right? And then they reset. Okay, here's about a minute later. Let's watch Jorge Masvidal. He kind of goes lateral, then he goes back to his orthodox stance, right? On the timing, he level changes, comes over, steps forward with the right hand, and then tries to double up. Look at this defense from Darren Till. The head doesn't go this way. It just goes back. So what ends up happening, and you see him do this a lot, we talked about strikes on the same side. A lot of people think you have to go side to side, and you can. It can often be a great option. Sometimes another great option is to go same side. So you'll see what he does is, go back. He's going to put his hands out there. He's going to jab. He's going to wait for Till to do this, and then he's going to come around the same side. Actually, he doesn't jab. He crosses it from a orthodox position cross, which is just to get his hands up or to get the parry, brings it down, and then tries to bring it around. See how he's too short? He's like Russian artillery, bracketing. But this told him where he was short on this one. And by the way, it's a good job by Till to get the hand on the shoulder to prevent it. But that's bracketing, you know? All right. Here we are again. Look where they are. The warning track. This is where he generally would find a good home. Well, in this case, I should say for the right hand. Let's see what he does. He doesn't quite shift, but he stutter steps and comes over the top, and then, boom. And what do you notice? The left hand finds it. What's one of the reasons you might double jab? One of the reasons you might double jab is to get inside. You're having trouble closing the distance. If I single jab, you know, it might set things up or not. It might help me tell me where they are. But if I double jab, now I can take another step in and I can find it. This isn't exactly the same thing, but it is a way of stepping into distance, missing. Look how far away he's missing. But if he keeps it up, as long as he extends and moves his feet faster, he can get that. And he saw it. And this is, you can see, back to the orthodox position. So he goes southpaw a little bit and then orthodox a little bit. Not quite. A little bit. He kind of just brings it level. It's a little bit southpaw, but by the time he throws it, right? Bop, and then whack. So it's not really a stance switch more as it is like a halfway kind of stance switch to get himself closer. But it's that left hand he sees that's landing. It's the left hook that's landing. Finishing those combinations. All right, end of the round here, close to the end of the round. Watch Jorge Masvidal, right? So he reacts to a feint. He pulls back, throws the right over the top, and then what does he do? Boom, throws that left hook. It's there every time. Look at the defense of Till. Ha! Every time, man. Every time. Leaning. His feet firmly planted, right? Again, that's not saying it's wrong. That can be a perfectly... Look at what Silva did against Adesanya. Whoop. You can lean. Leaning's not bad, but there's a time and place for everything. In this particular case, Boom. And he gets hit with it, and he goes back to where he was. But by the way, look who has the lead foot angle. Till. From this position, he was always maintaining that lead foot position. Always, always, always. It's kind of impressive. Here we are, round 2. Let's watch. Again, southpaw, orthodox. Let's watch the footwork. So he's going to, let's see if he sets up a lane for the punch. All right, brings his hand up. You can see Till go like this, right? Go back and look. See that? Till goes like this, which means you can come around the glove. So that's exactly what he does. He resets. He throws a punch as a setup, switches stance like this, misses with the right, and then misses with the left as well. But here he is collapsing the pocket. This is what I'm talking about with bracketing. He takes too big of a step, so he misses. Plus, I think he wanted to get on the inside of any check hook from Till, so it didn't necessarily work out, but you can see him understanding now, okay, wait a second, if I can shift through, if I can change through, right hand, left hook over the top, I might be able to get something here. And he was marrying it with jab, right hook, left hook, right? He's beginning to put pieces together. Before it was just jab, hook, right? And then before it was kind of hook, hook. Now it's jab, hook, hook. Putting it all together. And he goes back to his stance. And you can see he finished there in southpaw, and he goes back. All right? Here we have southpaw versus southpaw. This is near the end, by the way. What does he do? He kind of feints upstairs, shifts his, not shifts, but stutter steps, goes for the leg, doesn't work. Let's see what happens. All right? And here he's just going to kind of dance on the outside. He kind of goes to southpaw, backs out, orthodox, switches again. That's more like a shift right here. That's a shift. Now, he's not shifting in motion, but that's what the footwork would look like, just like that. That's a shift. See that? And then he just kind of goes back to where he is. So he's, and then look at this timing. He steps, but soon as that foot comes up, there he is right on top of him. Till kind of read it at the last second, but he's mixing up the timing. I'm going to dance on the outside. I'm going to reset. I'm going to re-enter striking range and then get you on the timing. So you saw some good stuff there from Jorge Masvidal. Here we are close to the beginning of the end. Again, southpaw orthodox, He's trying to get that angle. Masvidal circles away. Here he is. So similar to the same punch, the thing gets clipped here. It's the right hand. He slips the cross of Till, throws his own right, boom, throws his own left. Again, I don't know if this is a problem he has generally, but he had one in this fight of his right hand being too low. It got him caught over and over and over and over and over again. And by the way, up against the warning track, as I mentioned, when he was in that warning track, if you guys know what the warning track is, if you watch American baseball, it's that last 5 feet or so right before you hit a home run, that space there where you'll see him catch sometimes pretty high fly balls. It's the last area there at the edge of the field. That's what I like to call the warning track here in MMA. It's not really what it's called, it's what I call it. But as you can see, when he was here, he wanted to counter-strike with the right hand, the same punch or relatively the same kind of punch that Woodley landed. Yeah? Boom. Caught him. Two-pieced him up there. That was just a two-piece, no soda. All right, here's the beginning of the end. Let's watch this from this angle. You can't quite see it. Switches, shifts, but doesn't move. Kind of goes back. See, what's the reaction? All right, what's the reaction? He shifts. Hands kind of come down a little bit. Not a whole lot of reaction there. Then he goes to southpaw, sets it up, because he knows if I finish with the left here and I get just the distance right, this will be mine. So he lets Till come in a little bit, resets again, uses that to push him back. And what I think he wanted here was for Till to come forward just a little bit, like that. And as you can see, what he's going to do is he's going to fade over until he's created a lane for his left hand. He fades over. Now he's got his lane. You see that? He was kind of here before. Now he's got his lane. And he just jabs. The hands come out of Till. He shifts left. And he was ready to throw the right here, you can see. But Till kind of collapsed in on him. Put the thumbnail up, please. Here's another look at it. Go ahead. So it's blurry, but he's starting from the southpaw position. Right, here he is. He He puts the jab out to get the hands out. Look at Till's hands, man. Way out in front. And you can see, look at his feet. Right? Pay attention to the feet of Darren Till. Who's moving their feet faster? Right? And so he catches him here again, hands out. I can catch him with the left if I can fool him with the right. And by the way, when he throws from the shot, he only landed this punch like one other time. Most of the time when he had landed the left, it was a left hook. Now he's getting him left straight, or kind of instead of a left hook from a right-handed position, he's getting with a sort of a long overhand. So it's also something of a different look. I don't think he was necessarily anticipating the punch coming from that angle and that particular side in that way. So that kind of got him. Here's another angle on it real quickly. Last one. By the way, Mark Goddard did a great job again as a referee. Southpaw position, blitzing in, hands come out, pow. Just catches him, just quicker. Good setup, good timing, the whole nine. By the way, you want to see the double shifting from Tyron Woodley? Let's take a look at the double shift. Ready? Watch Tyron's feet. All right. One. That's one shift. And he's going to use that shift to drive into the pocket and then shift again like that. See that? There's your shift. So we are orthodox, south, punch, orthodox. Right? Now, I mentioned on the broadcast very quickly, because I know we got to get going. I mentioned very quickly that there's somebody in MMA who's the best double shifter. Dude, I still think Israel Adesanya is the best stance switcher because there's a lot more different things he does. A lot of different things. He is your best double shifter. He's your best shifter generally, right? This guy does so many different things with the shift. It takes a while to understand what he's doing. So watch this. He goes orthodox, right? Watch this. So he shifts at an angle. Cody retreats immediately. And then, watch again. We're here. One, kind of stutter steps into two. So he ends up, usually a double shift, you go back to the same one. But because he shifts and then half shifts, he's able to go back to not orthodox, southpaw. That's one. Here's another one. We're at southpaw. What does he do? He goes and just changes to orthodox. Let's see what he does. Pay attention to TJ Dillashaw here very quickly. He shifts. There's your shift. Whoop. And then he half shifts again and ends up in southpaw. So it's one. So let's see. 1, 2, and then ends up in southpaw. Bow. All right. There's another one. Let's watch. Here's another shift. Shift. Takes the outside angle. Let's see. He goes one, kind of keeps the same angle and leaps forward, and then shifts again, and then again. Look at this one, man. This is just incredible. 1, 2, 3, 4. And not all those were shifts, but he's playing with stance and angle and distance on all 4 of those. He doesn't do a traditional double shift where you're just coming in straight. He's coming in at angles and curving and everything. Here's another one against John Lineker. So before he was trying to set up strikes against Cody Garbrandt. I know we got to go very quickly. Watch this. So here's your shift, and he half shifts. Look, he's in orthodox, right? He shifts, takes a half shift, and then goes to southpaw to get the wraparound double. One more of these. Ready? One more time. He's going to circle to his left. He's in southpaw. He's going to go orthodox, shift, but like a stutter step to then get into that to the double. So he can go shift, half, stance switch, shift, 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 half, shift, shift. He can do all different kinds of stuff. Head kicks, punches, takedowns, left-handed stance, right-handed stance. Where they all come from, you can put the thumbnail back up. All that kind of stuff. It's that kind of thing. The one last point, because I know we have to get to our next guest. Here's the point I wanted to make. They say something in American football. They call the NFL a copycat league, where one year you'll have a team be very successful running a certain kind of offensive scheme. The next year you'll see 2 things. One, you'll see defenses kind of adapt to it a little bit, but you'll see other teams trying to take that success and borrow it for themselves. And eventually everyone just kind of figures everyone out, and then a new adaptation happens. Now, I'm not saying that Tyron Woodley stole it from TJ Dillashaw. I'm not saying that Jorge Masvidal took it from Tyron Woodley. I don't know who got what from who or how long they've known it. But here's what I am noticing. You're seeing more and more of this. I think guys, even when they know it, if I see TJ Dillashaw out there doing it and I'm a fighter, I could say, oh, I'm not TJ Dillashaw, but I should feel more comfortable trying my offensive weapons against some of these guys. You're seeing much more of that these days. It's actually pretty impressive. So the double shift is interesting, but here's the deal. Whether it's a 2-piece and a biscuit, a 3-piece and a soda, don't let the crazier things that happen in Jorge Masvidal's life and the other things he comes from to trick you. That is part of who he is, no doubt about it. I don't want to take that from him. But don't take the fact that he is cerebral and smart and capable, and look at the other names I'm showing you and the things that those guys can do. Champion Tyron Woodley, champion TJ Dillashaw. Is Jorge Masvidal going to be a champion? I don't know. Here's what I do know. He fights just like one. That's the Monday Morning Analyst. All right. Well, this chair is broken. All right, let's do this. Put these old cans on. How we doing in the back there? Good? All right, no answer there. That always is makes me feel good. All right, what's the word? We got Mr. Dominick on here or what? All right, the line dropped. He is on the phone now. All right, can we go to him? Yes, no? All right, let's do it now. Joining us on the hotline is a man who is surging through the light heavyweight ranks. He had a very, it was a close fight, but I think he gutted it out in the end. The one and only Dominick Reyes is here. Hi, Dominick. How are you?
I'm excellent, Luke. How are you doing today?
Oh, terrible, but what else is new, my friend? Are you back home? Where are you?
Now I'm sightseeing right now in London.
How is London?
It's pretty cool. It's actually cold, but it's nice. It's a nice city.
It's very expensive. You do know that now, right?
Oh yeah, I've been here for 2 weeks now.
Right on. Well, all right, let's talk about it. How did you feel about your performance from Saturday?
I feel like it was a gut check kind of fight for me. I had to find that next gear. I'm not completely satisfied with my performance. I know I got a lot more to show. But I came away with the win, and that's all that matters.
All right, what went right and what went wrong? Like, give me a sense of, because you got the win, so that went right. But in terms of what you guys had planned and anticipated, let's start there. What went right?
Well, I controlled the distance pretty well. I was my feints and fakes were working, but I think I just gave him too much respect. To be quite honest, I respected him more than I did my own thing. Instead of just going out and just doing my thing, I was worried about what he was doing and his power and things like that. Ended up working out, but going forward, I'm definitely just going to focus on playing my game.
Why do you think that happened?
I mean, it was a huge profile fight. He was number 2 in the world one fight ago. And I had a lot of respect for him and his power. And I think it was his power in both hands that made me kind of overthink my game plan.
Was his power what you thought in the end? Like, was your expectation of it the reality?
It was, but it wasn't at the same time because he didn't knock me out. So, yeah, he's definitely a powerful guy and he hits very hard, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to put me out.
All right, so let's talk about what went wrong. Like, what did you game plan for that just didn't quite materialize?
That's a tough one. I mean, I pretty much did everything I was game planned to do. I just didn't pull the trigger as much as I would have liked to.
Huh. And again, it went back to just the profile of it all?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It was,
you've been on some big cards. I mean, this was a big card, for the place it was in. But, I mean, this isn't like I don't mean to be disrespectful, but it wasn't a huge UFC pay-per-view. You've been on some big cards. I'm a little surprised to hear this,
Well, it wasn't about like the card. It was about the opponent more than anything. This is my highest profile opponent to date. I feel like my most dangerous opponent to date. And I kind of overthought things, you know. You don't always have your best performance. You know, luckily for me, I still came away with the win. You know what I mean? So I'm learning off of the win as well.
How nervous were you when it went to the scorecards?
I mean, anytime it goes to the scorecards, you know, it's always nerve-wracking. I mean, you don't know which way it's going to go ever. So I was nervous.
But I guess, like, when the final bell ended, what were you saying to yourself? Like, I did enough to get that, or I don't know what's about to happen here?
I thought I did enough, and I was like, all right, we'll see what happens. Like, not up to me at this point. I did what I could in this fight, and we'll see what the judges have to say about it.
And it didn't look like you had any gas tank issues. You felt good there, right?
Oh, dude. Yeah, I feel like that's what won me the fight. You know, I kept the pressure on him, you know, throughout. You know, as he started winning, I was getting stronger. And I think that's what won me the fight. My gas tank. I feel like my gas tank was leaps and bounds better than it was my last fight.
There's no doubt about it. In fact, I think your gas tank's been good since we've seen you in the UFC. Now, some of your fights have all ended pretty early, but even against St. Preux, you finished strong there as well. Have you noticed that light heavyweights tend to not have the best gas tank?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's tough, man. I mean, being as big as we are and moving, you know, as explosively as we do, it's big energy drains. You know, almost every movement is an energy drain. I mean, you're a big guy yourself, so when you start doing explosive movements, you get tired quicker than the smaller guys. I mean, it's just the reality of the situation. But,
all right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm happy, man. I'm super happy with everything, the way it all came out.
All right, fair enough. Now let's talk about some of the realities of this win. Heading into this fight, you were sitting at, I believe, 8th or so. Volkan was at 6th. But Blachowicz is sitting at 5, and he's coming off of a loss, I believe. Where do you think this should put you?
Right around 5.
So this is a top 5. You believe you're a top 5 light heavyweight now?
Yes.
Now, obviously, the question's going to be what that means, because you've got Cormier sitting at 1, but I don't know if he's going to fight light heavyweight again. So that's kind of out of the window. Gustafson's got a fight coming up against Anthony Smith. John Jones is looking for someone. That next one down is going to be Thiago Santos. And then if you got into the top 5, you'd only be separated by Anthony Smith. So the question is as follows. It's a long-winded way of asking it. How far do you think you are from a title shot given your current trajectory?
So I feel I need another fighter in my belt before I fight John. So maybe one, 2 more, and we're dancing.
Did you watch his last fight against Smith?
I did.
What'd you make of it?
I did. Championship performance, man. I mean, he's a champ for a reason. He has a great game plan, and he did his thing. It was just classic John, you know, neutralizing the opponent and getting the win.
Have you at all thought about what it might be like to fight him, both A, in terms of the pressure, and then B, the actual task of it?
Yeah, I've thought of it before. But that's something like you don't really think too hard on it until you get there. You know, when I first came into MMA, it was always, you know, trained to beat John. I'd do everything right so you could beat John when you do fight him. So I think when the time comes, I'll be ready. I know it's coming soon, so I'm getting there, man.
Yeah, you certainly are. I mean, the good news is you're well on your way. The question is, I don't think you're very far at this point. So I guess, like, in looking at when people are fighting him, what do you notice about how, or I should say, why they lose? Okay, yes, John's very good, but is there any common thread?
I think the common thread would be people kind of get in their own heads and let John dictate the pace of the fight, as opposed to just throwing caution to the wind. Or, you know, I feel Gus did it best with his movement and his, you know, avoiding those knee kicks and the awkward, like, John puts you in awkward situations. He'll make you do things that you're not as comfortable doing, but he'll put you there. And I think it's about being comfortable, being uncomfortable against John.
How much of a learning process was this? Yeah, no, it does. How much of a learning process was this towards that end?
Oh, it was huge. It was huge, man. I mean, I got to go 3 rounds, you know. Octagon time is invaluable. Getting that time in there. And, you know, mid-fight, I decided I'm going to win this fight. And if I get knocked out, I get knocked out. Like, that was part of it. You know, I grew mid-fight. And I know without a doubt my cardio will hold up. You know, I was pushing it throughout, and I just felt like I was getting stronger. And then in terms of game planning, doing what I want to do, I mean, this was a good experience because I didn't do exactly what I wanted to do in this fight, and I recognized what happened, and then how to address it going forward. So it's like one of those, like, I'm not going to just worry about my opponent only, like never again thing. Like, it's about me going forward.
That's interesting, the choice you made. I've heard other athletes say that kind of thing. So then let me ask you this way. If you said that to yourself halfway through and that's what propelled you to victory, that's amazing. What were you telling yourself when the fight started?
It was similar, and there was a moment where I had him in the first round. I got his timing. I was like, I got you. And then I was going to start doing my thing, and then I didn't. And I can't explain why or what happened, but I felt like he was going to counter me with everything I was doing. I had his timing, but it felt like he had mine.
Huh. So when you hear people say, like, in a fight where they just weren't themselves, maybe you've never had that before, but maybe now you can understand what they at least mean.
I could definitely relate. I could definitely relate.
So
yeah.
like when you told yourself, okay, no, F this, I'm not going out like this. This is going to be my fight for the taking. Like, did you get a rush of energy? Was it a calm decision? What was it?
It was a little bit of both. It was like a rush, and then like I felt free. And then I was just going.
that ever happened to you when you play football or anything?
It has before. I think what happened was I got, like, you think you stink, and I started thinking too much, and I just let go, and I said, just fight. You're great. Just do it. And I did.
Now, are you a guy that watches a lot of tape?
I am.
So this is so funny to me. Sometimes I talk to fighters and they're like, I can't watch enough tape. And then some are like, I don't watch any. And then some are kind of in between. On that spectrum, where are you?
I'm on I watch a lot of tape side.
Now, do you think that maybe, like, do you think maybe you want to change that? I mean, here, like, understand the nature of what I'm asking. I am not prescribing it to you, nor am I in a position to do so. But I'm wondering if this fight has you maybe reconsidering that.
No, not at all. It was just, I think it was just a growing opportunity for me mid-fight, and it was a growing opportunity to me as a fighter, period, where, you know, I'm as equally as dangerous as any opponent I'm going to fight, and they have to worry about me just as much as I have to worry about them. So why worry about them so much?
How fast can you make a rebound if need be?
I think it's going to be a couple months, maybe 2 months or so.
Did UFC say anything to you about their plans this year?
No, I haven't talked to anybody yet. I've just kind of been staying low key and just enjoying my time out near London with my family.
All right, so that
anyone right now.
So then let's figure this out. You just got to. I mean, you're on this is an incredible win streak you're on. Again, you joined the UFC back in June of 2017. Since then, you've won all of your fights, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. Let's ask it this way. Let's say you get a title shot this year. Would you rather be against Jon Jones, or as long as it's for the belt, it doesn't matter?
I'd rather be against Jon. I would definitely rather be against Jon.
To be the guy that beats him?
Yes.
But you take a title shot no matter what, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, yes, but I would love to be the guy. You know, it's not many times in your life are you get the opportunity to do something like that.
You ever crossed paths in any of your previous athletic endeavors against like a super special athlete?
Somewhat. I mean, Josh Norman was in my conference. He was a very good athlete.
Washington Redskin.
Yeah. That's probably, I mean, yeah. NFL receivers, NFL cornerbacks. NFL cornerbacks, in my opinion, are the most athletic people on the planet. So, yeah.
Although Norman's a bit overpaid, if I do say so myself. But that's a separate reason. Well, look, man, I know you're with your family. I don't want to keep you. Look, it was not every win is the easiest or the prettiest, but the win streak is alive. You're still undefeated, and you're just continuing to climb these ranks. I appreciate your time, and enjoy London.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you. And, I'll be talking to you soon.
I'm sure you will be. All right, there he goes. Dominick Reyes. I think I almost called him Dominick Cruz. Okay, so we have to change things up on the show today. So let's do it this way. Why don't we now do a round of tweets? All right, 5 minutes on the clock. When they go up, that thing will start. Let's see. All right. Which statement is most true? Number 1, Till was overhyped. 2, Masvidal was underrated. 3, Woodley changed Till. 4, Masvidal got way better during his time off. Most true would be Masvidal was underrated. He is the most underrated fighter relative to the casual audience that I can think of. I do think that Till's rank and assessment probably deserves some recalibration, and I do not believe that Woodley changed him. There may be something to be said for 4, that Masvidal got better during his time off. Next. How much of a push do you think Jorge Masvidal will get after his win over Darren Till? And who do you think he'll realistically face next? Well, if you saw Ali Abdelaziz tweeting, he said that they didn't even want to give the title shot to Colby, that they wanted to give it to Jorge. Now, Jorge's win I thought was really nice. I showed you why I think it was really nice. But he was coming off of 2 losses previous to that. And so now you're in a position where, as good as that win was and as criminally underrated as I think he's been, Colby's win streak is what it is. I think people just have to kind of make peace with it. Kamaru thinks he's going to put a beating on him. So then go put a beating on him and put that to bed is kind of my attitude. I'd like to see Jorge fight one more. As much of a fan I am of his game, I'd like to see one more. Next. Had Edwards shown he's Europe's number 1 welterweight, and although not got the fan favorite style with KOs of Till, his all-around game is superior. Is he the number 1 welterweight out of the UK? Yes. Yes. I think that his media approach could be changed. I think he's a little too reserved. But this rivalry with, or whatever you want to call it, with Masvidal will certainly help things. But yeah, he's got a bit of a grinding, round-winning style, but he absolutely is deserving of respect for how good of a fighter he is. Next. Would be interested to hear your thoughts on the judging of the UFC London card. Seemed to be some strange decisions in 2 or 3 fights without really knowing exactly which one you were referring to, maybe even the Dominick Reyes one. Again, I don't really have the same reservations about this kind of stuff that some of you guys do. I'm not saying all the decisions were great or that I even necessarily agree with them. But when you have a scoring criteria that is so open for interpretation that 2 people can pick 2 different winners, that your subjective experience about where you sit could determine it, the fact that you have no data can impact it, the fact that you can't go back and change your scorecard, the fact that we judge round by round, all of these different factors to me explain the gross discrepancies we see in interpretive evaluations. So unless I see someone that's really crazy, which I did not see, I understand your frustration. We are stuck. Next. Should the UFC be more proactive with looking after fighters' mental health? Considering the dangers of CTE and the mindset it takes to be a fighter, Could there eventually be a mental health crisis in MMA? Certainly that storm could be coming. In the UFC's defense, they are major proactive participants in the Cleveland Clinic brain study. And they, of course, have done a measure of fighter insurance. I think, honestly, if I can be candid with you, expecting the UFC to do any more than they've already done probably just is not realistic. You can say that they have a moral obligation, but here in the real world, what is actually possible, I simply don't understand that. I would argue it's up to the fighters themselves to be stewards of their own future. But as we know, they are typically reluctant to do that kind of thing. Next. If you had to pick a team of 3 fighters to have your back during the zombie apocalypse, who would they be? Ooh, well, if we're going to just talk about rando stuff, first of all, the guy's picture there for his Twitter page is Eddie Hall. Shouts to Eddie Hall, 500-kilo deadlifter. I would say Prime Fedor, Vanderlei Silva, and then Tim Kennedy, because Tim Kennedy would be my weapons specialist. Maybe Brian Stan, too. I don't know. Next. Nathaniel Wood is going straight to the top of the bantamweight division, and nobody is stopping him. I don't know about nobody, but is he going straight to the top of the division? I mean, there can be no doubt. Next. What one additional element would most positively impact Gunny's overall game? More varied offense in the clinch, chained takedown attempts, higher striking output. His takedown attempts are pretty good. You could say more varied offense in the clinch, sure. Higher striking output. He is a little judicious. I don't think he's in bad shape, too. I think he's in good physical shape. I think he's a little bit outgunned in terms of physical strength in that division, because you got to remember, there are some very strong people in that division, and he is strong from what I'm told from people who've trained with him. But there are times when you can see it's just a little bit, it makes just enough of a difference. You could say have, more frequent offense. That's fine. Varied offense in the clinch. That's a good thing too. Chain takedowns, no. Higher striking output, a little bit. But if you married a little bit of higher frequent output with, I think, physical strength, that would open up some other parts of his game inside the clinch, inside these wrestling exchanges, that could then make way for offense in terms of striking if the wrestling itself was not positively benefited. There's a question of how much that would slow him down. So I'm positing a scenario where he can add that without too much of an issue related to speed differential. Okay, let's do it now if we can. I spoke to the women's UFC flyweight champion of the world. She is in Thailand training and getting her sister ready, of course, for UFC St. Petersburg. We talked about Jessica Ai, who she's facing at UFC 238, and some of the comments Jessica Ai made about the best way to beat Valentina. I've spoken to Valentina many times. This is my favorite interview I've ever done with her. She was effusive, happy, not on edge, but gave no quarter to Jessica Ai. It was really interesting. Here's our conversation. And I am joined now by the women's UFC flyweight champion, Valentina Shevchenko, who appears to be in paradise. You're in Thailand. First of all, I know you travel around a lot, and I know you've trained in Thailand before. Why are you back there?
Yes, you're right. Totally. We are in Thailand, spending every time a lot of time. And I think we are maybe already like more than 10 years traveling back and forth to Thailand. And this is one of my favorite places to be and to train, to prepare for the fights, like everything. And especially this occasion, why we are here right now, it's because of preparation for my sister's fight. Antonina, she will fight 20th of April in St. Petersburg in Russia. It's going to be first female UFC fight in Russia in the whole history of UFC. So we are here now for training camp for her fight, and also like on the way for starting training camp for my fight as well.
That's interesting. Do you know who your sister is? Do you know who your sister's fighting?
For sure, yes. For sure, yes. It's Roxanne Modafferi.
Got it. Okay, so that's interesting. So you guys are trying to. Well, your fight's going to be in June, right? So you're still very early in the process. I guess she is pretty close.
Yes, it's 1 month left for her, and I still have about 3 months ahead of me.
Okay. But what is it about Thailand that's so important for you guys to train there?
It's everything. It's not only training, but it's like the spirit of Thailand. It's very nice to be here because we um, we are training here in the Camp Tiger Muay Thai gym, and we have everything, all like facilities here, like cage, sparring partners, and also the important things. We have good like stuff to recover. We have beautiful beaches and great nature. So this is like what I call when you are preparing for the fight, but in the same time you are like resting, like your mind, it's not charged about like thinking only about training, only about like getting better and better. You have your time for the training, but also you have your time for recover. And this is more important because you just cannot train like all day long and thinking all just about fight. You have to manage and you have to like to make equilibriums between these two, and this is why I think Thailand is a good place to be.
So are you guys going to go from Thailand to Russia, or is there going to be other stops along the way before that fight happens? And also, for you, how much of your camp is going to be back in the States?
Yes, we're gonna go from here to Russia because it's shorter flight, then go back to States and go back to Russia. It's gonna be very tired. And yes, we're gonna do like this, but for my training camp, I think after her fight, it's gonna be all the way to United States.
Got it. Okay, so you're the champion now. So sometimes I talk to fighters and they say, I got the belt and yeah, everything is different. It's crazy. It's this, it's that. Sometimes I talk to fighters who get the championship and they say, you know what? It's not that much different. So where are you?
Me, I was prepared exactly what I will face, and I've been like champion, Muay Thai champion, K1 champion, like for 17 times. I hold this like belt, and I know what to expect. Of course, we are speaking about different league because UFC is the biggest MMA organization in the world, but I know how to manage everything because I understand clearly where's the truth, where I have to be, what's the number one for me, what I have to do to maintain my belt. And number one, it's to keep training hard and put my legs into the ground. So without thinking, okay, this is like, that's it, that's the point. But for me, no, it's okay. I reach it what I was wanted for all this time, but now it's another time to start to work and to start to keep training hard and be the best, because I know everyone will want to take this belt from me, but no one will be able to do this because I will train hard. It doesn't matter if I'm champion and what I reached already, I will train very hard and harder than anyone.
Is it weird to be in a division where, look, you are a professional and you've been a professional for so many years, and your sister as well, right? So there's just this pedigree of professionalism in your family. But is it weird to be in a division where people like me in the media or even just other observers, they all say, oh, there's nobody who can even come close to beating Valentina Shevchenko in the women's flyweight division? On the one hand, it's got to feel good that people have that kind of confidence. On the other hand, does it play mind games with you a little bit?
It's if it's so, it's good, yeah. But I'm not expecting things like this because flyweight, it's in UFC. UFC just created this weight class, and you could see that now it's a lot of strong female fighters in this weight class, and a lot of fighters they move down from 135. And a lot of girls move up from 115. And, I could say that it's going to be the hardest weight division among all girls in UFC. And it will be more excited weight class. And I just who I am because I'm training a lot. It's not because of something like else. No, it's just I know what exactly I have to do to beat my opponents, and this is where I am. I was dedicated like all my life to martial arts. I'm training since 5 years old. Already 26 years. I'm like training every day, and this is why I'm here. This is why like everybody thinks like this. And I, for sure, I will continue to do the same, to give the same thought for the people, but in the same time, entertain all my fans and to show just beautiful and like very good fights in all my fights. And this is what I want to fight to perform me as good as I can and enjoy my life. And how many people they're saying, "Oh, Valentina, you are in Thailand, you are on vacation. Oh, Valentina, you are here, you are on vacation." But I say it every time, it's not like my vacation, it's my lifestyle. It's how I live. I'm not like, for example, if I post in some pictures on the beach, it doesn't matter that I'm not training. I'm training every day. I can say it for sure. I train every single day, but I know how to enjoy my life. It doesn't mean that if I'm on training camp, I will be like just thinking about training. No, I can do both, and I know that it's gonna came out much better for my fight.
So there's an interesting thing that's happening because now you have a strawweight champ, you got a flyweight champ, you got a bantamweight champ. We had a different featherweight champ. Now one is both. But the point being is you're starting to see, multiple women gain titles in the UFC. So when you think about what you want to do as a champion, the answer is always to win. As a fighter, it's to win. I don't mean that. But I guess what I'm wondering is, do you ever think about the idea of what kind of records you want to set as a champion? Like, for example, on the men's side, you've got consecutive defense record set by Demetrius Johnson. You've got all-time number of defenses by George St. Pierre. Do you think about certain numbers like that you want to hit? And if so, what are they?
I don't want to put any sets for me, any goals for me, because I'm not like this. It's like, it's so, like, everyone, okay, I have to put a goal for me and I have to reach it. I do my best. I try to be the best in everything what I'm doing. But of course, the number one, like you mentioned, it's to win the fight. And doesn't matter how many times I gonna do it, but I gonna do it every time, every single time when I go into the cage, I gonna win the fight because this is my mindset. But about the goals, of course, I want to do the maximum what I can, but I don't like to put the goals, to put the numbers or something like this, because if you are set up with this, it's already in your head, and if you are don't if you can't reach it, your mind start to break and you have all kind of troubles and problems. I mean, not physically, but mentally. And this is what usually the most that why the people they are broken, because not because of the body, because of like physical issues, not because of mental issues. And I don't want to put me in this situation. I just want to be number one in everything what I'm doing. And of course, I want to defend my belt as much as I can. But it doesn't matter what I'm not gonna do something else on my way, because it's the opportunities shows up. You have just to take them, and we'll see what kind of opportunities will show up on my way of the champion of UFC.
In all of martial arts, are there certain champions that you really admire, maybe more than others? And it could be not necessarily even just MMA. It could be kickboxing as well. When you think about, for me and I'm not a fighter, of course, I'm just an observer, but I'm very impressed by what St. Pierre has done. I think even though he lost to Matt Serra and he lost to Matt Hughes, to come back and avenge them and to beat that many welterweights, to me that's really impressive. I'm wondering for you, do you have any champions you look past to and take motivation from?
A lot of fighters, what I admire, I love their technique, I love their mindset, their style. But every time, number one for me, it was like the my favorite fighter. Every time I was watching his fight and was like, this is the dynamic of the fight, what I want to looks like. It's Benny the Jet Urquidez. And he's a modern fighter, but when he started to fight in Thailand, it was something like new. It's so interesting. I remember when I was very young and my coach showed me his fight. It was like big videotape, and this like dynamic, these spinning kicks. It was something that I was watching. It was like, wow, it's so beautiful. It's so interesting. And you know that amazing thing that in year 2017, I could meet him personally, and I could speak with him, and he was explaining and tell his history, how it was the beginning from his side, what he felt, what he thought, and he's so like amazing person. I really admire him, and I'm so happy that now I know him personally. It's I think it's one of the biggest fighter in fighter world.
Benny the Jet, one of the best. All right, so let's talk about your next fight, UFC 238. You're going to be facing Jessica Eye. When you think of Jessica Eye as an opponent, what do you see?
I see it's. I know for sure she will go forward. As I saw from her fight with Caitlin Chokogan, she was every time putting a lot of pressure. But you know what I can see more? Maybe she could see that she's better than me in grappling. Maybe she could see she's better than me in wrestling, in striking, whatever. But it doesn't matter because she's not better than me. She's not. And I will prepare me for the fight. I will put the good fight on the show. And doesn't matter for me whatever she will bring. Doesn't matter at all. I just will do easy things. I will win the fight, and that's it.
Let me read you one quote she gave. I'm not one of these guys who typically likes did you hear what they said? But I thought this was kind of interesting. She said the following, quote, speaking about you, one of her biggest weaknesses is her ability to adjust to the fighter she's fighting and be able to do something different. I think being versatile and being a true martial artist wins this flyweight title and keeps me champion, talking about herself, for a really long time. What do you make of the fact that what do you make of the idea that she sees a lack of ability to adjust?
The lack of, I cannot. I think she don't know what she speak about, but because it's like not make sense to lack of adjust. It's not make sense at all. The other thing that you have so much technique in your arsenal. You have so much everything to choose the weapon, what you're gonna use against your opponent. This is what I see. This is in my mind the adjustment, that you are not just adjust because you don't have opportunity to do something else. No, you just choosing the right weapon against your opponent. And this is what I every time I'm doing. Okay, if you need if I need to go hard, I can go hard. If I need to wait a little bit, I will wait. If I have to go striking, I will go to strike. If I have to go down, I will go down. So this is my version of adjustment. I have a lot of techniques. I have a lot of everything to choose what I will play against you. And this is more dangerous, I can say. What is you never know what you will face off. This is the thing that what I can explain what is adjustment. But listening to her quote, I really understand she doesn't know what she's talking about. Maybe she's saying words, but she don't know what exactly this means.
Well, let's ask you about this then. The card. Do you know what place you're going to have on the card? Now, if it's a title bout, the lowest it would be is the co-main event, probably. Do you know if you're the main or co-main? What's the word on that?
Not yet. I don't know yet. What's the place? What's the numbers? I know the one important thing. It will be my title defense. This is everything what I want to know. And for now, I just keeping my mind fresh and don't try to do. I'm trying not thinking too much about the fight, but I'm already started my preparation. But I want to put my mind in the this fight mode in right time and right place. And it's not yet there. It's not yet because for now I have my sister's fight. Antonina, like I say, she's gonna fight in less than 1 month in St. Petersburg, Russia, against Roxanne Modafferi. And like I said, it's gonna be first female UFC fight in history of Russia. And now my all my mind, all my thoughts, it's about her fight. I trying to help her as much as I can in her preparation and to do everything as I can to make her successful in her fight.
Last question. Last time you fought in Chicago, you had a great win over Holly Holm, one of the better wins of your career in terms of getting your name out there, of course. You're back in Chicago. You got to be happy about that, right? It's got a good place for you, or do you not really think about places you fought as good or bad?
No, yes, I'm thinking about this place. It's a very nice place for me, and I have a very good memory about this place. And one of another side why Chicago is good for me, it's because we have the huge community of Kyrgyzstan people, my home country people.
That's right.
And so much restaurants of Kyrgyzstan food in Chicago. So, every time I remember about Chicago, I already excited to be there and to try all this amazing and tasty food.
Oh, that is amazing. I totally forgot about that, but you're so right. Well, you know what? We really appreciate your time, Valentina. I know you're training every day, but I'm looking at that blue water in the pool and the nice weather. I can't keep you from it any longer. So thank you for carving some time out for us. Can't wait for UFC 238, and go enjoy Thailand.
Thank you very much. And you know what's the amazing thing? That today is Sunday here. Today is a good day, resting day. So we will go around, just enjoy our day and explore all the beaches as we can. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Valentina. Have fun on the beaches.
Bye.
There we are. Appreciate the champion's time. All right, we're going to try something new here. Why not? What do we honestly have to lose? It is time now for a segment Danny has conceived of. It's called Is Normal. There you have it. Is normal. Let's to better understand this. It is the brainchild of Danny Segura. Let's get Danny on here. Danny, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm doing fantastic.
Good. At least one of us is. All right. What are we about to do here?
Well, you don't seem too excited, but I think you will in just a second as soon as we get these clips rolling. So basically, as normal, it's going to be a segment we're going to bring up every now and then when the opportunity arises.
Not every week.
Not every week. And we're going to just talk about and show something that, is normal in our sport of MMA, but in other sports and for other sports fans, it's probably considered crazy. So, the schedule opened up a little bit with Masvidal not being able to make it on the show. So, what a perfect time to roll it out. And this segment is about him. So we're kicking it off.
How fortuitous.
Yeah. And Is Normal is a little tribute to Anderson Silva. So
yes, it
shouts
is.
out to that man.
Yep.
So let's get right into it. There was a little bit of a fight, of a brawl right after Jorge Masvidal's fight against Darren Till, which, caught some people by surprise. Some others kind of believed it would go down. So let's take a look.
All right, let's see it. Bob, hold that.
Let's talk about that opening sequence.
Maybe not.
There's the replay there. Maybe we can bring down the volume on that clip.
By the way, I can't say anything when people say George for Jorge.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
All right, we get that one.
All right. Can you put us back?
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. All right, so
That's when he gave him the old 3-piece and the soda.
we'll get into that in just a second. We'll get into that in just a second.
All right.
First of all, what was your reaction as soon as you saw these clips roll out?
I thought it was so funny when Dana White was out there being like, I can't believe this happened. Look, Jorge Masvidal is not a feral animal.
Yeah.
That's not who he is. But he's got a little bit of that Habib in him, man, where like, dude, if you want to fight Jorge Masvidal, not a problem. There are ways to arrange it. There are ways to arrange that in a way where everyone profits financially, that is peaceful, at least, before and after. He's a sportsman.
Yeah.
But if you want to get, I mean, dude, I've said it before, he's from the Kaje, man. Like, you want to go that route, he can go that route too. You know what's funny is after the whole Habib thing, and I realized that was like crazy when he jumped out of the octagon. I'm not saying these two are equivalent, but there was a lot of, oh my God, this is terrible for MMA. Everybody and their brother about this is like, yeah, 3-piece and a soda. Woo, go Jorge. There was like massive fan cheering for him.
Yeah, it definitely has a different feel than that. I think it's also because a lot more people were involved, and I feel like it looks uglier when it's a brawl, when it's like 15 people going at it, rather than just two.
Yeah, and it was over as soon as it started too.
Right, yeah, it was something very short, but yeah, a lot of people came out saying like, oh, this is a black eye for the sport, and I'll tell you something. I've kind of had a little bit of change in mind when it comes to these things, like very recently, like. This is not any other sport where it's soccer or, American football or tennis. Their job is to fight. So, they do this Monday through Friday on a regular basis. You know what I'm saying? It's like when you're playing soccer and then you get into a fight and post game, there's something different there than it is whether you take it into a context of boxing or MMA, right? Like these guys are so used to fighting. I mean, they do it on a regular basis that for them to hit that button is a lot easier than other athletes. So I think we need to take that, into consideration.
Well, they also again, he's a father, he's a sportsman, but as a way to adjudicate a dispute, Jorge Masvidal throwing hands, it's not some unusual experience.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how do I solve this problem? I know.
Right.
Like a lot of us be like, how do I solve this problem? I'm going to go to your manager. I'm going to sue this person. Jorge's like, I got a simple solution. Bop, hold that.
Exactly. Like if you were to tell like some random dude on the street, like, hey man, in the next 2 days, you're going to get into a random street fight. People probably would never leave their house and be scared. I think if you tell that to Jorge Masvidal, he'd be like, okay, thanks for a heads up. Like,
yeah.
And now he's looking out, over his shoulder. So, these guys live by different rules. Now, this is not, I don't condone this. I don't think this is.
No, if everyone did it, it'd be a huge problem.
Of course. And
but at the same time, the pearl clutching, I'm not prepared to do it.
Yeah, for sure. Especially like you also got to look at like the aftermath as well. Like sure, Leon Edwards was a little bit injured. I believe he was cut open a little bit and was bleeding, but nothing extreme happened, Nonetheless, it's still unfortunate. But all right, well, now let's go to the reaction of these two guys. They took to social media, both in different ways.
All right.
And they reacted to this.
All right.
So let's take a look.
Okay.
Hold on. There we go. All right, so Leon Edwards posted on Twitter, very happy with my performance last night against a very high-caliber opponent in Gunnar Nelson. Much respect to you, Gunnar. That was a great fight, and look forward to seeing you bounce back. Thanks to my team, friends, family, and fans for everything. Birmingham, stand up. As I said, that's 7 in a row in the hardest division in the sport, and I'm coming for everyone. World Champ 2019, mark my words. If you're not with me now, you will be. And Jorge, fair play for sneaking your shots in when you could, but now you're effed. If security wasn't there, you wouldn't have made it back to the U.S. I'll see you soon. And
see you soon, boy.
See you soon, boy. Now, here's what Masvidal had to say about the situation, speaking with ESPN.
Bro, he's a real one. He's a real one.
Comes by saying some stuff, and July, get your ass kicked to July, and I go, maybe, bro, whatever, because maybe I want to kick your ass in April. Maybe I don't want to wait till July. Maybe I don't even want to fight you in a prize ring because you're not worth a training camp. I'll just fight you here because you're a scrub, I tell him, just say it to my face, like, man, you're saying it, walking away. That's not like, we're both men, And as I'm walking up to him, I got my hands behind my back to signal I'm not coming here for problems. But he put his hands up like this. It's on video, and he walks towards me. Well, where I'm from, if you do that, you're going to punch me in the face, and that's not going to happen. dork. You're JV, beta. You are what you are, bro. You're just a loser in life, man. You're not gonna get a hit off me, you know. So I had to give him the 3-piece with the soda and just glide out of there, you know. And then some of his friends tried to sucker punch me. Those guys did a big mistake. So I'm doing my interview.
Yeah. All right, we get the idea. By the way, he was asked later, you know, do you think there might be repercussions for it? God, he is so slick. Did you see his answer?
No, I didn't.
His answer was so clever. He goes, well, it was Brett Okamoto interviewing him. He's like, Brett, I don't know if you saw the tape, but I was fearing for my life. That was self-defense. He pitched it as, you know, this was the total Florida stand your ground law. You know what I mean? I was under duress. Yeah, I had to do what I had to do. And like, not from the word go. Like, the first thing he ever said to the media, he presented himself as the victim. And maybe you could say that he is. I'm just pointing out, it was he's so smart. He's so street, but he's so smart. You know, it's kind of funny.
Extremely. That's what I'm saying. He reminds me a lot like the Diaz brothers. Like, those guys are brilliant. They're super smart.
Don't you remember Nate Diaz real quickly at the airport? They asked him how he's going to fight Conor. He's like, I'm going to give him to cash the check and go home, or something along that variety. It was similar to this.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the 3-piece with the soda, that will fall as, you know, is normal. Not, you know, impressed by your performance. You can keep going on. That's now part of MMA vocabulary. Would you agree?
Yeah, it is. You know, it's funny. He doesn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
I was actually talking to his manager before the show, before everything collapsed. But he'll talk about it. But remember before the fight, when he was like, why are you guys asking me about Ben Askren? I have to fight Darren Till. Like, why are you guys bringing this up? Which I actually thought was a halfway decent point. Here's the thing. It's like Jorge doesn't want to talk about Leon Edwards, which I get because he's looking up. I want to focus on the title. I want to focus on those guys. But, dude, you punch a guy in the face while you're getting interviewed on, what was it, ESPN or whatever it was. Yeah, man, like, people are going to ask you about it. Like, it's going to be a thing whether you like it or not. So kind of funny in that regard. It's like you kind of blew up his profile a little bit. You know what I mean?
I mean, this went viral, you know, and
Super viral.
It was not only the attack, but I think the 3-piece with the soda added so much more to it.
So perfect.
This is a classic moment in MMA.
It really is. That's a new internet meme, the 3-piece with the soda.
For sure.
I'm not sure which one was the 3-piece and which was the soda, but in the end, he got it done.
Yeah, I wonder which one's the soda, right? Like, yeah. All right. Well, with that being said, that is normal.
All right.
Where we'll be taking, you know
what?
Stuff that happens at MMA. We'll be recapping it. You know,
for the first time, not so bad.
Yeah, it's not bad.
For the first time. We can build on this, Danny Segura.
For sure. I mean, it's going to be a work in progress, for sure. But, yeah.
All right. Well, how about this?
Little thing.
Don't go far, because it's time now for the sound off. All right, there he is. He is the 3-piece to my soda, the one and only Danny Segura. All right, Danny. I am told by you that there was a quote, and I'm not, tell me if I'm making this up, a record number of calls.
Yes, it was insane.
Now, what is your theory about why there were so many?
3% in the soda.
Yeah. I guess, do people love it? People love it. If you steal on someone in the face and then you have funny things to say about it, that's the ultimate 1-2 combo.
And the best thing is how laid back he is. He's got a tracksuit, full piece on. He's got the beanie. He's just sitting there slouching, and he's so calm about how he goes about things.
He has, the tracksuit with the beanie.
Yes.
And the beanie's half on, like the top looks like the reservoir tip of a condom. He's just kind of out there chilling, you know? Like, couldn't have a care in the world.
Yeah. Man, that guy's a treasure. They should promote him, man.
I've been saying for a while he's been this way, you know? Yeah. And, by the way, it's not something to laugh at. It's a good thing. He's bilingual. You know this as well. You know, if they have plans for Latin America, Jorge Masvidal could be featured at the front of some of them.
Oh, yeah, for sure. 100%. Even not even South America, just Miami. Have an event in Miami, because I know they're having an event in South Florida. It's Sunrise. It's not the same thing, though. Have an event in Miami, Yoel Romero headlining, you can easily put Jorge Masvidal on the co-main event, and he'll fill that arena up.
Yeah, two Cubanos there.
For sure, yeah. All right, well, let's start off with a little bit of a positive note. I think there's a lot of negativity in the world nowadays, and, you know, we got a positive call. So it's not really a question, but just wanted to set the tone for this segment.
What's up, Luke? This is Jet Unico from Los Angeles. I just want to tell you thank you so much for your fight breakdowns that make the treadmill so much easier and cooler. Your breakdowns are epic. It's cool to see you coming into your own, even with a sense of humor, talking a little bit of mess. And I just want to say I really appreciate what you're doing. You're killing it. And I look forward to all the content that you're creating. And I'll always let those whack commercials run just in hopes that it generates a little bit of revenue for you guys. Really appreciate you guys. Thanks.
Wow, he left a message just to say that?
Just to say that. Hey, shout out to Jet Uliko from LA. Thanks for listening.
What a nice message. I was going to go put a bullet in my mouth after the show, but now I feel so much better.
All right.
Do you like my uncomfortable jokes? No, that's a really nice message.
Man.
That's a really, really nice message. So.
Yeah, it's nice, man. And it's really nice when, fans say nice things, because like on Twitter and social media is just a ball of negativity. Everyone has something negative to say. Everybody always criticizing everybody. Let's just be nice to each other, man. It'll make the world, a lot better.
That honestly was very, 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 very nice. I really thank you so much for watching, of course, and for taking the dude. Here's the thing: it's very easy to be negative. As someone who is negative, I can tell you that when someone does something positive, you actually have to go out of your way to do that. If you think about it, like to send a note to someone to say thanks, to hold a door open. It's something super small for like an old lady or something. You have to like do something to be positive. It's just you can just be naturally negative,
Yeah. That's also one of the reasons why, this is a side note, but I don't really pay too much attention to reviews. Don't put too much stock in them, because I feel like people that like the product, don't take the time to, write a review about something nice. They just, this is a good product, and they keep buying it and go along the way. And the people that write reviews are the people that didn't like it and, go on there to sort of vent.
I'm the kind of person who writes reviews.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
dude, I've written like 2 reviews.
I mean, I don't actually write reviews, but I'm that kind of a person.
Okay. All right, well, let's get started with the questions.
All right.
First up, Jorge Masvidal, a big weekend for him. 2 wins in a row.
Hey, this is Michael Oviedo. I'm calling from Minot, North Dakota. What's up, Luke Thomas and Danny Segura? I was just wondering, we saw Masvidal land a vicious KO.
Not many
on
Cubans
Darren Till.
in North Dakota.
What is next for Masvidal? I heard Kamaru Usman's manager say that he thinks Masvidal deserves the next shot. What do you guys think? Thank you.
Yeah, there's the thing. I mentioned this briefly before. I really have a ton of respect for Jorge Masvidal, but I just don't know about the title shot thing.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Dude, here's the thing, man. Ben Askren's sitting at 6 now, and you've got Masvidal at 11. Edwards is at 10. Here's the thing I was trying to tell, or I was going to tell Jorge. It's like, dude, you completely blew up Leon's profile. Like, you can't steal on a guy in the face, do media about it, and then be like, okay, well, he's behind me in the pack. Well, he might be. I mean, depending on how things shake out, because he beat the number 3 guy, so he's probably going to leapfrog him at this point. But, dude, you completely blew up his profile. Like,
you just created a story.
That's the fight now everybody's going to want to see. So it's like, I completely understand why he did it that way. And he also noted in the interview that he didn't realize the cameras were going to follow him when he walked away. He thought they were just going to stay on a static shot. So he thought he was just going to sneak over and give him the old the 3-piece, and then that was going to be it. But you could do Ben Askren. You could do, I don't know, Dos Anjos, somebody. There's got to be this. I really respect Jorge, but that's just not enough for a title shot. It's just not.
I mean, yeah, the guy got a super impressive win, beating Darren Till. It's no easy task, especially going into his hometown, everything that, that comes with that. But nonetheless, the guy was on a 2-fight losing streak before that. He just got a win. You got an interim champ that's on quite a streak with, obviously, in Colby Covington. I think that's the fight to make as far as the title goes. And, for Masvidal, give him another fight. I wouldn't mind him being in a title eliminator opportunity, whether that's with Ben Askren or, look, even the Leon Edwards fight. I'd like to see that at some point. There's already a storyline, build up here,
For sure.
And I floated this idea before the whole 3-piece with the soda. But I wouldn't mind seeing Jorge Masvidal face Mr. Robbie Lawler. I know Lawler trained at ATT, so I don't know what their relationship is, if they're friends or not, if they'll fight each other. But, if they're cool with fighting each other, I think that's a great fight. And I think Lawler, although coming off a loss, I think, it was controversial enough where his stock didn't drop, and he still has a name. So I feel like it'll be, it won't be a step back for Jorge Masvidal. What do you think about that?
When people think about fights to make, one of my weaknesses, actually, I'm not really good at these, to be candid with you. People often have very specific interests in mind. Like, I want to see this permutation. And I sometimes get that, right? Or like in a really big case, wow, you really want to see Conor Nate 3, right? That's one like you just want to see. But to be honest, for most of these elite fighters, I don't really have too much of a specific inclination. He could fight Askren as far as I'm concerned. Dude, he could fight Covington as far. I mean, I know he's not going to, but sure. Your suggestion doesn't ring any bad bells with me. Yeah, fine, great.
I'm the opposite. As soon as the fight is over, my brain starts ticking.
Yeah, I don't do that.
I think I was a matchmaker at some point. I've always been in my previous life.
It's one of the reasons why I don't do like breaking news about who's going to fight who next.
Yeah,
I never found it that interesting. I realize that the rest of the public does.
Yeah.
Right? Because look at the numbers. Like, you break news, X is going to fight Y. Kaboom.
Yeah.
You're like that. Most people are like that. For some reason, I'm not quite. Again, if Mayweather's going to fight McGregor, I'm like that. Okay. But generally speaking, I'm just like, okay, cool. Next permutation. Yeah.
Interesting. Yep. All right. Well, let's take a look at the other side of that equation. Mr. Darren Till.
Okay.
What's next for him?
Hey, Luke. It's Tanner from Colorado. Just wondering what your perspective is on Darren Till and what he should do next. After a vicious knockout like that, I'm not really sure what's left for him at 170. Maybe a Robbie Lawler fight, but I don't know. But then I look at the 185-pound rankings, and it doesn't look pretty for the top 15 for as far as the matchup for him. So I'm just curious, what do you think he should do next? Should he take some time off? How do you guys get over something as devastating as move forward? Alrighty, thanks.
Well, to be clear, I don't coach fighters, so I'm in no position to tell fighters how they should or shouldn't get over losses in terms of how they emotionally approach the game, Danny, but this is a really easy answer. You need to go to 185, okay? There's not life for you right now at welterweight. He's very young, and he's very talented. He got a little bit ahead of himself with some of those wins and the hype, to which I and other media members are probably partly responsible, so I'll jump on that grenade a little bit. But the reality is, after losing to Woodley, okay, not a big deal, but you didn't land a punch, and you were very competitive with Jorge Masvidal until you got viciously KO'd. But as you saw in the Monday Morning Analyst, that left was landing over and over and over. And I just feel like some of his style of defense with the lean and everything, there is some seasoning. So when you look at the top 15 or whatever it is at middleweight, you might say, well, who's he going to fight there? Guys, he doesn't have to fight anyone in the top 15. He needs reps, right? He still has the potential for greatness. He was competitive with Jorge. He dropped Jorge Masvidal in the first round. Let's not forget that, okay? And took him down, I think, once. In any event, so I would say go to middleweight, because there's a question here about how much the punching power of Masvidal was affected by the weight cut of Till. Mm-hmm. We've seen it. Guys cut a bunch of weight. They can't take shots like they normally can. Now, Jorge is not some kind of puny hitter. I'm just saying that's something you have to consider. Go to middleweight and start a life there. Figure it out. Get better. To close, I have done it before, and I have made the mistake. Guys, learn from my mistakes. Do not count fighters out who are in a bad spot. By the way, it's often the case that the up-and-coming contender, when they lose to the champ, they often lose their next fight. Look at Volkan Oezdemir. He's lost 2 since then.
That's true.
Happens all the time. So what I'm saying is, don't underplay things. Some changes are in order. But don't overplay things. The sky is falling. It's not. Make some helpful changes, start a new life, get some seasoning, and you'll be great.
Yeah, I would love for him to go up to 185. I know this is an idea he's kind of teased with. But look, even if it's not like a permanent home, like at the end of the day, success, a lot of success comes after experimentation, right? Like if you're just constantly trying the same thing over and over, it's hard to find success there, right? If you're trying different things, then maybe you can see what works, what doesn't, and that way you can start, through process of elimination, you can find what works for you. Look, you don't have to commit to 185. Go up and see what happens. Just have one fight. See how your body feels, see how the weight cut goes,
That's right.
See how your skills translate, see how, the size and all that comes into play. Look, 170 might have to be his home. I remember a long time ago, I was saying, Jose Aldo needs to go up to 155. Jose Aldo needs to go 155. He's too big for 145. Because remember, there was that video that came out where he was like crying during his weight cut, and like it was for the Mark Hominick fight. At some point, things look pretty scary. But look, and he was already in an older stage too, He regrouped, he figured things out, and dude, he's never missed weight, and he's always looked good in his performances at 145 ever since.
I would say, I would add to that, Anthony Rocco Martin told me something last week that really stuck with me. I asked him, how much weight do you cut to get to 155? He's 170 now, but he goes, from 195. And I said, Jesus Christ, man. Like, a lot of weight. Yeah, it's not unheard of, but that's really a ton of weight. Here's what he told me. He told me he cut that much weight because he wasn't confident that he could win without the size advantage. And he said, now that I'm confident in my skills, I don't need the size advantage. I'm fine at welterweight. Now, I don't know what Darren Till's situation is.
Yeah.
But when you've got a young guy who's very confident but still developing his game, I wonder how much he's telling himself that size advantage is an ingredient for success.
Yeah.
Because I bet it's not nearly as true as he's telling himself it is. I bet he would be much better at middleweight. At least, to your point, kick the tires on it.
Yeah, just see what happens. And I think this is when the UFC has to come into play and kind of give him a hand there. Like, look, this guy is an exciting prospect. You know, he has an exciting style. Outside of the cage, he's also a very interesting character, a guy we can promote. You know, let's give him, I'm not saying an easy fight because there's no such thing as an easy fight in the UFC, but let's give him, you know, not a top 10, not a top, 5. Let's give him a top 15, maybe a little bit outside of that and see how he fares, you know, and kind of, help him, build his skills up. Now, if he does decide to stay at welterweight, I wouldn't be super opposed to it because he did make the weight for this fight. In that case, I think a Mike Perry fight would be awesome. I think there's something there. We kind of teased that fight for a little bit, and I think, it's enough of a step down from the very elite, right? To kind of, give him an opportunity to bounce back.
Fair.
All right. Now, let's switch gears and go up a few weight classes. This was actually a very interesting point, a very interesting question that this caller brought up.
Hey, this is Miranda from Lansing, Michigan. I have a two-part here. The first is in regard to the segment that Luke did on Second Acts being exclusive to the heavyweight division.
Not exclusive.
Do you think that the lack of weight cutting holds any significance to its exclusivity? And the second one I had is that I'll be attending UFC 238 in Chicago, and I'm interested in what you guys think the main event will be. My inkling is the rematch between Henry and TJ. Let me know what you think.
Interesting.
Thanks.
Well, first of all, very smart call.
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, I don't know what I said back on the show. I have to go back and listen to it, but my radio show I do afterwards, obviously. On that, I made the point on the air. Folks have hit me up since then. The second acts are not exclusive to heavyweight.
Right, but you did
dominant.
say that. Yeah, exactly.
So, for example, you've seen Cerrone go from lightweight to welterweight, then back to light, and every time there's like this reinvention. You can do it that way. Knock, knock for Darren Till. Then we'll see what happens with Luke Rockhold up at 205, right? So, no, it's not exclusive to him. So, yes, the weight cut is a function there. To the second part of the question, I don't know what they have planned for 238, but I've heard some rumblings. That's a very good guess.
I think so, too.
And it just seems like they're committed to resolving whatever happened in Brooklyn. So here we are again.
Yeah. I think that's a very good guess. Right now, the co-main event for that, or what we think the co-main event, is going to be a title fight between Shevchenko and Jessica Ai.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they put in, Cejudo versus Dillashaw in that one. I think
Which is so funny. It's like both guys have nothing to do with Chicago. Now, Shevchenko a little bit, given some of the native populations there. But isn't that weird? It's like, we're just going to go to Chicago and we're going to put in two guys from Southern California. Hey, Chicago, enjoy.
I feel like you can't always get the regional thing every time,
You can if it's a priority. Boxing promoters never fail on that.
That's true. Yeah.
It's
But
just,
when you got a schedule to roll.
That's exactly right. When they're like, all right, we got 50 dates this year. We got a blah, blah, blah. There's just no way to properly coordinate that.
Yeah, for sure. Also, there are some fighters that I feel like there's a stronger case to put them in their hometown. Like, I feel like, for example, like a John Jones or a Brock Lesnar, like they can fight anywhere. They'll make big numbers.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I feel like this is kind of like the same. I mean, obviously, it'd be nice to have them in California, but I feel like it's fine.
What they do is they get these headliners that, that fights that need to be made, what fans want to pay for, keep them in rotation. And then what UFC typically does now is they'll find as many Chicago-based fighters to fill the rest of the card.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you get that by default, but there really is no substitute for a hometown hero and a homecoming.
For sure.
I've been to if you've never been to a fight where a guy is or a lady is truly embraced by their hometown, it's a different feel, man.
I mean, look at Darren Till walking out.
Yeah, and that was London. That wasn't even Liverpool.
Exactly. That felt big. Felt different. I was at what was it, like UFC on FX 23 or something like that, when Chris Weidman fought Kelvin Gastelum in Long Island.
Yeah,
dude. At the arena, like, you definitely get a different sense than you do watching at home. Like, when Chris Weidman walked out, like, all these Long Island guys were walking out, and it just felt big, man.
Yeah.
It felt Felt nice.
People, the game is built off that. I mean, look, it'll do well. Chicago's a great market for the UFC. I just always find it kind of funny. It's like Dominick Reyes fought TJ Dillashaw in Boston. It's like, all right, I guess we're gonna go to Boston now.
Yeah, but I think this caller brings up an interesting point about the weight cut, man. There should be a study on that. I'd like to see fighters that are in the lower weight classes that don't cut weight, and track their longevity in the sport versus fighters that are known to cut a lot of weight.
But yeah, the one that I was stuck with was when I spoke to Chris Lieben maybe a year or two after he retired, and I asked him what he was doing to combat some of the rigors of the game. He goes, "Well, I have to take medication the rest of my life because I wrecked my endocrine system from weight cutting. The hormones are no longer properly regulated in his body."
We work in the media. You sometimes hear things that obviously you can't report on because it's things you hear, it's rumors, things that are not true. But like, dude, how many times does a fighter make a crazy weight cut and you hear like, yo, they weren't really the same after, or like they had to take a few months to recover from that. Weight cuts are.
How about this? I spoke to Thiago Alves recently. You know what he told me? Before he fought St. Pierre, he was passing out almost every day.
Yeah, I remember that.
Is that not? It's just what? What?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. It's crazy.
It's insane. All right, now let's keep the UK theme going on.
All right.
Talk about somebody that just got inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Won't be Theresa May.
Hey, Luke and Danny, this is Zach from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Looks like Michael Bisping's going to get inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. I was just wondering what your favorite moments of his inside and outside of the octagon are.
Wow.
Thanks, guys. Let me know.
Boy, that's a good one.
Very good.
Why don't you go first on that one?
All right. In cage, I think, man, there's so many.
There's a bunch.
I have this is maybe not my favorite moment, but this is something that for some reason it always stuck with me when he fought Dennis Kang. He got dropped by Dennis Kang, I think, in the first round.
That was after the Dan Henderson knockout.
Yeah. And I remember he went back to his corner, super chill, and he asked him, yo, what happened? He had no recollection of him getting dropped, and they were just like, yo, you got dropped. And he's like, oh, okay. And then he went out there and destroyed, in rounds 2 and 3, I believe. So, that was a pretty cool moment of his. But I think his highlight has to be, the upset over Luke Rockhold. I think nobody expected that comeback. Career
that's
comeback.
why he's in the Hall of Fame.
Exactly. And when he won that, you're like, oh my God, dude, this guy just never let go of his dream, man. He is the, epitome of persistence and just grind. And, I think that will forever, cement his career and sort of, put him up there. And outside of the cage, this might be kind of underrated, but I always enjoyed his stare downs at the weigh-ins, man. The whole finger thing that he does and he gets in the face, like it always gets you hyped up, like, okay, man, this is a fight. So he has tons of moments.
So for me, I mean, the best moment is easily when he put the punch on Rockhold. I mean, there's just no close second. Although knocking Jason Day out with the knees and the way he did was pretty epic as well. Yeah. You know what? It shouldn't define him, and it's not going to. But one of my most and least favorite episodes in his life. Do you remember when he spat on the corner of Jorge Rivera?
Yep.
That was really despicable in certain ways. And in other ways, I was kind of like, I get it, I really get it. Like, he is one of these guys who, dude, he fights with emotion and passion. And again, maybe here's the thing that people don't want to admit. Some of my favorite moments in life as a sports fan are when there was bad conduct on the field of play. Right? When Sean Taylor blew up that kicker, I forget his name now, at the Pro Bowl. It's like, Sean Taylor, why are you blowing up kickers at the Pro Bowl? Because, bro, that's just who he was. When certain guys fought, when somebody charged the mound after being hit by a pitch, you shouldn't charge the mound, but that's just who he is, bro. Or pick another, pick any other sport that you like where somebody just had unsportsmanlike conduct. We had Ronaldo doing the cojones thing to Simeone recently, right? It's the same. Like,
don't remind me.
Well, here's the thing.
I'm having
whatever. But the point being is, should they be doing things like that? Of course not. But sometimes do they let you into a window of the psychotic competitor that they are? So I'm not praising Michael Bisping for spitting on someone's corner. What I am going to say is, dude, he was a psychotic competitor. And he was good at media, and he was good at all the things, getting the fans into it or antagonizing his opponents. But he also lived and breathed and died with this kind of stuff. And so, it was unsportsmanlike, but I don't know. There's something to be said for that.
Yeah, that was not an act. You know, in this day and age where like people put on acts because they want to be
exactly
outside of the
right.
media.
Yes.
Dude, he was 100% himself his entire career, never changed. All right.
By the way,
yeah.
One of my favorite moments. Do you watch NBA at all?
No, not really.
Do you know what the Malice in the Palace is?
No idea.
Do you remember back
Sounds
in
cool.
2004? Yeah, exactly. You remember back in it was a huge black eye on the NBA.
Oh, was it the
when Ron Artest jumped into the audience?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
bro. When Ron Artest, now known as Meta World Peace, he
Yep.
thought he got hit by a water bottle. He wrongly identified the guy. Dude, when you see this giant man run into the audience, it just reminded me of all those times when people talk shit on Twitter and then real life smacks them in the face quite literally, and they get real quiet real fast. That's what, dude. The Malice in the Palace is literally one of my favorite sports events.
What year was that in?
2004. I was bouncing.
I was still in Colombia.
Dude, I was bouncing in New York City at the time, and it was so cold outside. And I remember looking into the place where I was bouncing. They had the TV on, and everyone was rushing in there. I thought there was a fight inside in the bar. So I go inside the bar, and everyone was just looking at the TV because it was mayhem. It was complete mayhem. And yeah, it's one of my favorite. Some unsportsmanlike conduct is fun. Sorry, it's fun. There we go.
Yeah. All right. Well, first of all, congrats to Michael Bisping for,
of course.
for getting into the UFC Hall of Fame. Well deserved. Let's talk about another gentleman that didn't fight at UFC London, but was definitely made his presence known.
Hey, Luke, this is Jimbo from Alabama. Hope you're doing well. I want to see if you put your matchmaker hat on for a minute.
All
What
right
would you
there,
do with
Jimbo.
Ben Askren if you were Dana White? Jorge Masvidal and Leon Edwards seem to be tied up. He ain't going to fight Tyron Woodley, and Colby Covington seems next in line for Kamaru Usman. Just wanted to see what you think you would do with him next. There's RDAs floating around out there, I guess, but I don't know. Just want to see what you do with him. Seems to be building up enough hype for himself that people want to see him get in there. Anyway, have a good afternoon. Roll Tide.
I knew he was going to do that. Roll damn Tide. We got no room for the War Eagle over here. Roll damn Tide. How many Europeans are watching this not knowing what Roll Tide is?
No idea. But we got several European callers. So.
I know. Roll Tide. If you're from Europe, just Google Roll Tide versus War Eagle, and that will explain it. I knew he. That's the guy that poisoned the tree at Auburn. That's the guy. Roll damn Tide. What did he ask about Ben Askren?
What to do with Ben Askren, man?
You could do the Masvidal fight.
Yeah.
You could do, I think he really wanted the Till fight because that would have been two big mouths and big personalities going after each other. But I guess Masvidal's one. You could do Leon Edwards against him. You could do the Lawler rematch, which I don't think they're really clamoring to do. Ponzinibbio's kind of floating out there. RDA's kind of floating out there. There's a few different directions you could go. Which one do you like the most?
You know what? I have no strong opinion on this yet because I'm waiting for Ben Askren's goals or like what is he doing in this division? Because he hasn't made his goals clear. And I feel like he could be much in a position like Jose Aldo where he could be a detriment to the division if, he doesn't align his goals properly. And I love Ben Askren. I think, he's great for the sport and I'm glad that he's in the UFC. But look, he's made it clear that he's not going to fight Tyron Woodley, right? And Tyron Woodley just lost his belt, and there's like a weird kind of sense in the air, like, look, I don't know if I'm going to fight for the belt because I don't know where Tyron is right now. I don't know if he's going to get an immediate rematch or if he wants to win one and then they'll plug him back in. I think when he decides what he wants to do, then I can start, doing matchmaking in my head. Because, for example, like if you're just going to let Tyron, rule that division and let him get a second crack, any contender that he's going to fight, if he wins, is just going to be bad for the division because, you're eliminating contenders, but yet you're not going to take the opportunity to go fight for the belt because your friend might take that opportunity. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So if he were to say, look, my goal is to fight for the title and this is what I'm doing, okay, no problem. Put him up against Jorge Masvidal, number one contender. And then the winner takes on, the winner of Colby Usman. But if you're not in that state, I kind of don't want to see you fight Jorge Masvidal because I think Jorge Masvidal is an interesting character, very skilled fighter. And I don't want to have an opportunity where a contender gets eliminated, but then not another contender is created. You know what I'm saying? So if you're just in it for fun fights, go fight Damian Maia. That'll be interesting. Robbie Lawler. There's very interesting options out there. But if your goal is the belt, yeah, go fight Masvidal. Go fight these guys that are at the top.
Agreed.
Right? Very much like Jose Aldo. That's why I don't like the Volkanovski matchup, by the way. Just throwing that out there. It's just like, dude, you fought Max Holloway twice. If you're at this point, if you just want to do fun fights, don't ruin contenders. You know what I'm saying?
Bro, he wants a shot at that belt one more time. By the way,
Did
with
the
Max,
UFC get to
with
him?
Max moving up, who knows?
Yeah, maybe. I guess that does open up.
That
the
changes things a
opportunity.
little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. All right. Let's see. You want to talk about Darren Till as a prospect? You want to talk about Conor McGregor? What's next?
Let's do McGregor. We haven't talked about him at all.
Okay, let's do it.
Hi, this is Joseph Mossman, calling from Atlanta, Georgia. I wanted to know what you guys thought about who Conor should fight next. I know that Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier are fighting in Atlanta. Just wanted to see your thoughts if you thought that might be a good option next.
I don't know. All right, so let's think about this. Tony's probably going to be in ice for a little while. Habib's not back till whenever. I don't think Conor's legal troubles will really impact his ability to get a license and fight.
It was a phone.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's. Did you see him, by the way, doing all the victory laps out there?
I did, yeah, celebrating St. Patty's. Oh, wait, so this is an interesting
By the way,
note.
hold on. Wait, time out,
Right.
time out. The Irish have berated me for what you just did. So here's the deal. It's either St. Patrick's Day or Paddy's Day. What it's not is St. Patty's Day.
Okay, my bad.
No.
St. Patrick's.
I did it wrong. Dude, I've been in America for 40 years. I've done it wrong. So, but apparently that's a sacred thing, okay? I didn't know that. So it's St. Patty's, or St. Patrick's Day, excuse me.
St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
All right. Well, in that parade that he was in, he said they're talking about July, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the winner of Poirier, Holloway's too quick of a turnaround, right?
Possibly depends.
It depends how that fight goes,
Yeah.
of course. But, dude, I expect that fight to be a war.
Yeah.
I think we all do.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I really like the Cowboy fight, man. But if they're not going to make that happen, something I'd like to see is the Nate Diaz trilogy. I'm a little sick of the Twitter back and forth between those guys. It's dragged out a bit. It's been going on for Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor.
Yeah, it's boring.
At this point, it's like, either fight or don't fight, man.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I'd love to see that, trilogy get put to an end and then have Nate Diaz go on his way and Conor McGregor go on his way.
Yeah.
So I think that could be fun.
Yeah, again, I told you how I feel about matchmaking before. Unless they matched him up with somebody I'd never heard of, I'd probably kind of get it. But you can get the winner of those two guys and Holloway and Poirier if you want to wait. If they're going to really push him along, I guess you could do who's Gaethje fighting coming up? Barboza, yeah. You could maybe get the winner of that. Yeah, you could maybe get the winner of that. Pettis, if he wants to go back down to 155, you could do.
That's why I don't like the Thompson fight.
Yeah.
And should be at 155.
So, but he's got some options.
Yeah.
There's some options.
For me is Cowboy, but yeah, that doesn't look like it's going to happen. Nate Diaz. And then after that, just, I guess, whatever's available. All right, we have time for one more?
We have time, yeah.
All right. Let's talk about Darren Till, but, overall in the big picture, let's talk about, prospects in MMA.
Hey, Luke Thomas, Danny Segura, what's going on, man? This is Derek from Vallejo, California. I don't know how many black listeners y'all got, but we are out here, bro. Check it out with the Darren Till loss, the back-to-back losses, actually. Do you guys think that, maybe fans and media kind of write off these young guys a little too quickly? I mean, we've seen it with the Bellator, Aaron Pico, who's only 22. He's taking back-to-back losses as well. Do you guys feel like maybe that they write them out too quickly? I feel like these guys have too much left in the tank for that to happen. Let me know how you guys feel about that. Great show.
Yeah, appreciate that. Shouts to all our African American listeners. Danny, here's what I would say: we do write guys off too early. The problem is we also overhype them up front. And dude, here's the thing. I have said this. I've made this point a number of times, if not on this show, my other one. Prospecting in sports is very difficult. I want you to consider something. The NFL Combine just happened, which is where they do all their physical measurables, some skill tests, right? And for our European listeners, you must understand this is America's most popular game by a wide margin. Look at the athleticism you see on display at the NFL Combine. It will take your breath away. DK Metcalf at 6'4", 240, running a 4.3 40-yard dash is incomprehensibly athletic, okay? That's where all of our best, not all, but many of our best athletes often end up. So they have the Combine. You have 3, often 4 years of tape to watch these guys as they grow at Division I colleges. Then you have your interviews. Then you have the draft, okay? Even then, these billion-dollar organizations, all the teams are basically worth $1 billion or more. They get it wrong constantly. Even with all that information, they make bad calls about who's going to be good and who's not. You've got NFL All-Pros who went undrafted. You've got first-round drafts that are out of the league in a year or two. They get it badly all the time. So it's not just MMA media that does this, Danny, but I really believe this. Trying to figure out who's good is hard. You get your LeBron James who comes along. Okay, it's pretty easy to tell he's good. Or a Habib or a John Jones or whoever. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the guys who are just less than that. Dude, there was a while there. You know how stupid I am? There was a while there I was like, well, Conor, I didn't know. I legitimately didn't know. I was like, we'll see how good he is. But Joseph Duffy, that's the guy that's going to be really the main fighter out of Ireland. And he is a good fighter. But when we talk about what their upside was, it was totally wrong. It's difficult, dude. It's really, really difficult. So just have a measured approach. Again, let's see what he does in his next step. If he goes up a weight class, who he fights. But it would be very foolish to slam the door on him. It's also foolish to build guys up before they're ready.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we definitely can't, write him off. We've seen guys, like Demetrius Johnson that for a while in their career, they were just a very good fighter, but that was just about it. That's as much as people had, that was the perception out there. And then all of a sudden he turned into what, you can make an argument he's one of the greatest fighters ever. Same thing with Anderson Silva. He experienced several losses early and, he was a good fighter in pride, but he was never crazy good. And then later in his career, that's when he became who he is now. But I would like to say, although the media does sometimes, write people off like fairly quick, there's also guys that we know that come in and that person has it. For example, like a George St. Pierre, dude. The dude only lost twice his entire career.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
John Jones, technically, he's never lost his entire career.
No, technically, he has. You mean?
I'm saying, in reality, he's never lost. I mean, he lost against Matt Hamill, but I mean, who considers that a loss? Daniel Cormier, the only person who he's lost to is John Jones. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That pool is very small. And I would say that, although I don't want to discard Darren Till just yet, but his chances of entering that pool, given what we've seen so far, they do decrease a little bit, right?
No, they do.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you lose back-to-back. That's what most of these elite guys don't do.
Exactly.
You lose to the champion and then, a guy who has been off for a while and they had 2 straight losses. Yeah, dude, there's some real recalibration. But again, the one thing I would say is, and again, he was also competing in the wrong weight class or in a different way. But Demetrius Johnson, he didn't come in setting the world ablaze. People thought he lost to Miguel Torres. And then he turned to be like the best fighter ever. So am I saying that Darren Till can rebound and be the next St. Pierre? All right, maybe that seems a little unrealistic.
Yeah.
But can he come back and make something great of himself? You bet your ass he can.
Yeah.
And he'd be very I don't know that he will, but do I think he can? Yeah, of course, man. The guy is very, very skilled. He just has some issues.
He's just 26, man.
Dude, 26. You know what I was doing when I was 26? Crying in parking lots somewhere, drinking cheap wine. This dude's out here lost to Jorge Masvidal. All right, man, it must be devastating, but chin up, dude. You are well ahead of the curve. Well ahead of the curve.
Yeah. So something I would like to say is I hope for Darren Till's career, I hope that, he does take a step back and kind of doesn't rush things, because I kind of felt like he was rushing things with his career. And I think something this weekend, Mark Diaz said in one of the post-fight scrums, you can watch that on MMAFightingonSBN.
Who fought Joe Duffy, right?
Exactly, yeah. He beat Joe Duffy.
Yeah,
he said, he even thought about asking the UFC to release him, because he's like, I'm so young. Like, I'm clearly developing. It might be even better for my career to develop my skills outside of the UFC and then, come back in ready. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not suggesting that Darren Till should ask for his release, but, maybe don't fight the top 5 for now,
Yep.
Anyways, I think we're good on questions, or you want one more?
No. Well, what's it about?
The UFC adding more weight classes. Why doesn't the UFC add more?
Save that one for later.
Okay.
Save that as an evergreen one. Great job with Is Normal this week. I like where that's going. A couple of tweaks we'll make to it. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, that was,
that was a dry run on air. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly.
But I appreciate all the good work you did this week, my friend, behind the scenes. All right, thank you so much. We'll talk next week. All right, appreciate you guys watching. Remember, keep sending the tweets using the hashtag the MMA Hour. Keep calling 844-866-2468. You can leave a voicemail if you're international. The MMA Hour at voxmedia.com. And until next time, stay frosty.